Wait, what?
Well, yeah, I'm one of the designated one of the designated fire people to help us get out of the building in case there's a fire.
But let me understand this now. So,
but I didn't go to the training.
Not even the fact that
we're online, by the way.
Not even the fact that our building had a fire drill scheduled.
No. It wasn't a drill. It was like that training of like, hey, what you're supposed to do.
Right.
I know, but explain to me where you were having this meeting again about where you would tell people to leave the building or they would burn to a crisp
on Zoom.
Yeah. How does that work?
Well, it's only people who know the building already. So I know I've done it a couple years. So
no, I'm trying to think like the actual logic of like, hey, let's have a Zoom meeting. Okay, let's do it now. You need to go tell people to leave.
So we just go up the stairs, right? Down the stairs, right?
No, it was something weird about taking a ladder up to get down. I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding.
I'm kidding. Did you get rid of the ladder?
No, I have stuck in my head.
We have two. Yeah, we have the two stairwells. That's how we get out.
No, but
the ladder's right here. The ladder's right here. Yeah.
There's an escape ladder.
Yeah.
Nice.
I kept it. So there was some escape ladder that we had, and I kept it. It gets you like it'll get you like 10 or 12 feet.
Well, yeah.
But if you look out this window here, you ain't
us,
jumping. If you jump, you're going to break both your legs.
Well, I mean, at least to there. It's not going to get you down the rest of the way, though.
No, but it'll get you down to where I can jump 6 feet. Okay, that's not going to kill me. I cannot jump 20 feet. That will definitely probably like I'll get to watch the fire burn the building to the ground as I'm lying there with my broken legs.
Right.
I can't jump 6 feet, but I can sure fall 6 feet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
good point. Gordon, what are we talking about today?
12th gen Alder Lake. In fact, I'm writing notes. MacBook. Is it
XMP 3.0 and then MacBook Pro reviews?
Mad Max
Mac Pro.
M1 Pro is the one that Macworld reviewed.
Yeah, it's like
they didn't have Max. They had Pro.
It's actually basically M1 Threadripper, right?
Max M1
Threadripper. Oh boy,
it's Max again. More Max talk because the reviews are out. We can talk about the reaction there. We're going to talk about Alder Lake, which, of course, that's what everybody in this side of the aisle wants to talk about.
Santio.
And XMP3.
XMP3. That one's second. So Intel XMP3, then MacBook Pro.
Yeah, XMP3, and then Max reactions. Anybody wants to just talk about that? We're here to take your calls.
Hot takes. Santio in the YouTube chat said... video of Gordon jumping 6 feet or it didn't happen.
Yeah. In an emergency, you will do. I mean,
Yeah, your adrenaline kicks in.
6 feet is not that far to fall.
Well, no, you said jump, so even Dr. Ian Countries is like, oh, whoa, Gordon can jump 6 feet high.
Well, you're still jumping. If you're hanging onto the ladder and you jump to the ground and you roll,
is that technically jumping? I don't know. It's falling. Because a jump, I would say
jump
is
out of the plane
and
or
the down.
Do you fall out of the plane?
Well, I don't.
Do they
technically call it a jump?
Jumping, yeah,
it's kind of jumping. Yeah,
they didn't call it. Hey,
well, actually, From the plane, you're jumping out.
Yeah, because it's
so there's an up and then a down.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, gravity controls us all, but I'm just saying that's you're jumping. Yeah, it's a you don't tell people like, hey, I went on a parachute fall. That sounds like way less exciting. Right? Way less.
If you can dunk a
that sounds way more exciting. A parachute fall.
Well, I stood there as I peed my pants and they pushed me out of the plane. That's a parachute fall.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, that's different.
Okay. Well, we got a packed show. We got lots to talk about. Sorry we're a little late. We're excited to do this one. It's going to be fun.
It will be fun. I'm glad Ian's here. That's somebody that I imagine has one of those newfangled chips somewhere. Maybe I don't know. Maybe.
Dr. Country says, hot take. There's an image of a Threadripper in the background while the topics are Alder Lake. Oh yeah, we got the. Yep.
Oh yeah,
it's there.
Yeah. Well, that's
Page Shills.
Oh, Page Shills. Yep, that's it.
I forgot about that.
It's been there. Well, behind Mark is Coffee Lake. Yeah. We're still using that old photo. So
it's a good photo.
Yeah, Gordon takes good photos.
That's when Intel. So for Coffee Lake parts, Intel included a bag of coffee. I don't know if I ever drank it.
Yeah, and whiskey. They added little whiskey tumblers, didn't they?
Yeah, but no whiskey. Just
right, exactly. Well,
yes, jerk. Okay, if we're ready, then I'll do the fancy little ad read. You ready?
Yeah.
This episode of The Full Nerd is sponsored by Avast. Avast has been a global leader in cybersecurity for more than 30 years and is trusted by over 435 million users. Avast One is their best protection yet, giving you everything you need to take control of your safety and privacy online. And it's accessible through a single easy-to-use interface. A free version includes essential features such as free antivirus, free VPN, and free firewall protection. And while the premium version has even more advanced protection. Learn more about Avast One at avast.com.
In this episode of The Full Nerd, 12th Gen Alder Lake is here. XMP3 and Max. Welcome to episode 195 of The Full Nerd, and I've flubbed it already. I'm your host, Gordon Mong, with co-host Brad Charkis.
Hello, Internet.
Mark Hockman to my left.
Hi, everyone.
And Adam Patrick Murray is controlling the vertical and horizontal.
We're here. We're going to talk about some fun stuff. I'm excited. And yes, Matthew Lang, I'm reading off a prompter. That's where the ad read lives, so that I can look cool. Yep. You know what else is looking cool? Gordon drinking out of one of our new mugs. Like that, yeah.
Wow,
friend of the show mug.
Nice.
He's so fancy.
It says, friend of the show.
Yeah.
Although I'm realizing it's the handle's on the wrong side.
Yeah. And then I've got my little Full Nerd pin here, the little enamel pin. Yeah, get yours now. Thank you for all the people who've have gotten the merch so far. It's been fun. I can't wait for the day that I actually get to go out in person again and maybe see somebody wear Full Nerd merch. That would be pretty cool. So yeah. Get yours today. But you know what people aren't going to get today?
What?
Because it's not released yet. But it got detailed is Alder Lake, or Intel 12th Gen parts. Gordon, what's the lowdown here?
Well, lowdown is a lot of claims. We can walk through some of it. We have some slides to walk you through. Basically, it's Intel's 12th Gen part. It is. I think they've described it as their most significant processor upgrade in a long time. I think probably the audience would say probably a long ass time. It's long overdue. Looks really good. A lot of really bold claims. Obviously, it is hybrid. So you get performance cores. You get your E-cores, basically. And
it's kind of what we hoped Lakefield was going to be.
Yeah, I think probably it's one of those things where like Lakefield is like the SQ1 of like sort of like hybrid parts in a way. So you kind of like, this part looks way meaner. I'll summarize what you get. You get to the new internal thread director to manage all the weirdness of E-cores and P-cores. You get DDR5, you get PCIe 5, 16 lanes, PCIe 4. Also unexpected but good idea is they doubled the DMI on the chipset. There's important. A lot of stuff. And this integrated Wi-Fi 6E support, I didn't even realize was there until this morning, which is kind of sad.
Should I be showing a slide? Is it?
We're just talking about slide one. We can skip that though. But, I think, I think for people who are into the nuts and bolts, you want to do slide 2. Let's just do the 600 series chipset.
Okay.
Because people love their chipsets.
Yeah,
the unsung hero of every desktop computer.
Yep.
And you can see basically you're getting, Gen 4 lanes. You're getting the 8 DMI Gen 4. So basically doubled what you got out of Rocket Lake, which is pretty good. And you can need that because, it would be very cynical to give you Gen 4 and not increase the DMI bandwidth, which for people don't know is the interconnect between the chipset and the CPU.
Right.
Although that wouldn't be a very good cynical, but then everybody would scream about it.
No Thunderbolt, though. Not in this one.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? I mean, it's always optional because, Thunderbolt is
mainly for notebooks, but still
kind of limited utility on a desktop because you've got all the PCIe.
You do, yeah.
You kind of like it as a bonus if you are a content creator and you want to hook up your Thunderbolt drive. But, most of the higher end boards are going to integrate it.
That's true.
It just takes...
it costs more.
Costs more. They got sent out for qualification, blah, blah, blah. It slows down a little bit. And the money shot, of course, is slide 3. Which is, it's all the models. This is what it's really funny. Every time Intel does their briefings now, they're like, and this is the part this is the only part you care about. And let me tell you, and Ian can attest to this. I'm not making this up. Also, Mark. when it's a bad year, when it's a bad launch. And here's a chart. Oh, and here's the next one. Wait, I didn't see it. What? Can you go back? Oh, well, we're going to go to Q&A now. We'll get you those slides later. It's like, but we want to gaze at the chart because we want to ask about why this part is this. Yeah, you don't care about these parts. There was no like problems here.
No,
You're like,
absolutely.
Here's all the parts.
You want your
Here's all
benchmarks? We got your benchmarks.
We'll keep it up for 5 minutes, no problems.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I've literally been in briefings on certain parts where clearly Intel was not happy.
Let's talk platform.
Remember those?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wait,
yeah.
wait.
Yep.
It was like, it's one of those like 1 split second, right?
The thing with this, though, I mean, it's tough to describe these parts because are we describing them from cores with threads? I mean, base clocks, turbo clocks. The E cores have turbo clocks. The P cores have turbo clocks. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I almost need like some sort of like industry shorthand for this kind of thing because I mean, it just was like when I was trying to even summarize it, it was just like, okay, there's a lot to summarize. You know, someone just slap up the slide right here and just say, all right, day over. So.
I kind of like how Intel did it though, the 8P plus AE.
Yeah,
like, we'd have to have something to explain that, but I think that's a good shorthand way to do it.
Absolutely, it's the clock speeds that kind of confuse me because I mean, it's just like what do you lead with? I guess we have to lead with the P core base. I mean, that's sort of what we're defining it as. Yeah.
Although, yeah, I mean, it'll get really weird too as the sort of E core base increases or decreases based on what you. I don't know how we're going to communicate that.
Because the 12900K actually has a slower base clock than the 12600K. I mean, that's just the weird part about it. So
yeah, but part of that is because if you're going to really hammer all of them, you just have that more thermal load.
Absolutely, so. No, it's just kind of just confusing to describe to the general public though. Oh yeah, the higher one is actually looks slower. Yeah.
And of course for audio listeners, at the high end you get a i9 12900K, which I've come to just realize I have to describe as P core, E core, and then thread. So it's 8816. There's of course a KF version. There's a i7 12700K, which is an 8/4/12 part. So 8 P cores, 4 E cores, 12 threads. The gem here is probably going to be that i5 12600K, which is going to be a 6/4. Wait, 14. God. I just wait, how many is it? Like 10 plus 4? Yeah, okay. It's 6 plus 4. It's 14. So 6/4, 14. And then there's a KF version of that. The KF parts are a little cheaper, actually. Did that happen with Rocket League? I cannot even remember.
Oh, the KF, you mean?
I never pay attention to the KF parts.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to think about that myself. I don't recall either. I think they're generally a little cheaper because, I mean, they just toss over the integrated GPU for discrete. So.
But I just remember there was a time where, for people who don't know, the F version has no graphics.
Yes, there's no graphics.
It's been turned off. It's probably bad.
Yep.
They normally would have thrown those away, but it's been so bad over the last few years, they started to sell them. Now it's like a regular thing, so there's no graphics core. Prices, should we get into pricing discussion here?
Sure. Mm-hmm. Should we?
$589 for the 12900K, and basically you save about $30 by going to KF. The i7 2700K is $409. Same thing, you shave off $30 or so for the KF, and then for the i5 12600K, it's $289, and actually the i5 12600KF is $264. And Mark has a very different view than me. And actually, I'm realizing they're extremely. It's not just you too, because they're very polarizing.
Right.
Because I think these are pretty good prices.
See, and I would disagree. And part of it is because, well, first of all, they're 50. So if you look over the prices, it's about $50 higher than Rocket Lake, which, in my mind, sure, that's a substantial increase. And then we can get into the arguments of whether you're actually going to be buying it at MSRP too. That's just a reasonable question for this holiday season. I'm not entirely certain that will happen, although we did seem to see, I think, earlier this year, some one-off CPU sales, so maybe the supply situation is a little bit better. But I was also thinking about it from a platform standpoint, because, if you want to go ahead and get the top-of-the-line processor here, the 12900K, you're also going to be thinking about DDR5. You might be thinking about some additional, peripherals to take advantage of, which I don't think we have any PCIe 5
not yet.
No SSDs yet, right? Exactly, but we're going to be headed in that direction. Yeah, right, or GPUs. But yeah, I'm thinking more about sort of a platform upgrade. I mean, this is going to be kind of a pricey upgrade for some people. If they wanted to double on.
Even in these early days, even if you're looking at that 12600K part, they only launched the enthusiast class motherboards too, right?
Also, real quick, to get some clarification, Dr. Ian Cuttress, Tech Potato, what's up? Says the 589 for the 12900K is the tray price, so it's probably more like 650 retail.
That's possible too.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I sort of go with
Tray pricing to tray pricing seems reasonable.
the 1K. The 1KU pricing has been the price they've always published, and of course, way back, you'd have people would complain because the retail part would come out a little more expensive. Then about 3 months later, once the pent-up demand is over, it would actually dip down below the tray price. That was the way it traditionally. I mean, millions of i5 2500Ks were sold that way. They were below the 219 generally. 189 was kind of the price.
Sure, right.
So I think I don't know. It's a crazy world, and I can't really hold any hardware vendor responsible for where things might be marked up due to the crazy world we live in. But my argument for why I think the prices are so aggressive is this is their new part. The performance claims they're making are pretty aggressive. And if they are saying there's a slide in here we'll show, and they have said, and I think their demo they showed off it actually outperforming a 5950X yesterday, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So Intel showed off like, hey, our 12900K can stand with a 5950X better. Right, is what they sort of are claiming.
And there's also,
by the way, 5950X is $750.
That's true.
So what are you going to complain about? This is $589. We're as fast as like, how the hell can that not be
the one? I mean, and the other thing to consider too is that the Intel Innovation Event, which is I think still going on actually today, and so the second day. I mean, they said. Gregory Bryant just dropped in that Intel's shipping 28 versions of all their like PC makers, and there will be eventually 60 new processors in the other family. So I guess we're just scratching the surface on this stuff. I'm not sure if he's referring to the. I would think he's probably including mobile in there and ultra mobile. But for right now, if we are shipping 28, that probably means there's some Core i3 processors lurking down there. I mean, when we had Rocket Lake X, we had essentially two slides of like, okay, here's all the Core i9s, i7s, and i5s, and here's all the i3s, and so we just, like I said, we just sort of have a couple of each of the families right now, nothing in the i3 family. So I'm guessing we'll probably see something more coming down the pipe in a little bit. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
28 is.
I want to talk about pricing before we go too far ahead.
Yeah,
I think, in my opinion, the answer is both. I think you're both right and you're both wrong. Everyone's right here. Everyone's wrong here.
Oh boy, where's my prize?
Yeah. But in my opinion, at least, if like the 12900K does come out and manages to beat the 5950X and you're getting it for $160 cheaper, that's great. That's wonderful. That's what you want to see. I'm also personally, I've been seeing it real bad in the graphics card side. I'm starting to see it on the CPU side. Worried about companies saying, hey, our part is faster now, so we're charging more for it. So prices have been creeping upwards and upwards and upwards. Like, we're looking at this, I'm reasonably confident that 12600K is going to kick a lot of butt, but it's still nearly $300 for a Core i5 part. The 12700 part is now over $400. In the past, it used to be, hey, here's our new generation. It's faster at the same price. We saw it this generation. We saw it with AMD, what they just did with the 5000 series. They're like, here's the new parts. They're faster, so we're charging more. So prices have been creeping upwards, and I find that a worrying trend in both CPUs and GPUs, especially with all the shortage issues going on.
Everything, game prices, the whole works.
Well, I want to bring up 2 points. One, it was very easy to argue that five or the list price for 11900K Rocket Lake 14 nanometer part was $540.
Sounds right.
That part did not. It was really hard to justify at $540, right? Frankly, because it couldn't even. What were they going to price it up with the 5950X just to get beaten bloody? I mean, the 5900X destroyed it. So what was really the point there? That part was not exactly great in performance for what you were getting for the money.
No, you're eking at the last.
So now you're getting basically, if Intel's claims are correct. I can't speak to any personal experiences, but you're now getting 5950X performance for, $100-something less. And I also want to point out,
which is good,
and that's great. And also I want to point out, like the i5 12600KF is $264. the original Core i5 2500K, which people still run. Elena probably still runs it. I'm sure she does to get her money's worth out of it. That thing was 218 when introduced, I believe. Adjusted for inflation, it's $263 now. So this 1200KF is $1 more than what the i5 was.
Well,
inflation is real. They do have to pay more. They have to pay employees' salaries. They got to pay. Things are real. Prices. I just don't understand how people like kind of pretend like they expect to get prices from 10 years ago, yet factoring in the constant. Everybody, I can tell you, I'm not paying the same thing that I did for gasoline, a car, or Jordans, from 15 or 20 years ago. It's just not real.
Well, I'm comparing more against the last generation. Like I agree. Inflation is a thing. It needs to be accounted for. I think it's reasonable, but it's more every generation now. It seems like they're going, oh, it's faster than before, so we're charging more.
Well,
and I don't like
which
that.
it should always be faster than before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It should be, right? Because that's how they get you to. That's how they get you to buy it. It's got to be shiny and new. But couldn't they have just said, let's price it at $749?
They could. The other thing I think about too when I see these prices as well is that Intel and AMD both have just been intimated that because of the supply situation, they're going to be pushing the PC makers, and this I guess is not coming from Intel or AMD. We're going to be pushing the high end parts. So you're going to see, which is, I don't know how to view it. I guess you're going to see, because it seems like the high end usually commands a higher premium, and it seems like everyone's going to try to maximize their profit this holiday season, which isn't necessarily great news for consumers because, if there's a bunch of, there could be Lamborghinis up and down the block and I still can't afford one. So, I mean.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. And that is every single manufacturer is doing that. Like, you don't go, I've been car shopping, and when you go to look at a car, you're not getting the DX versions anymore with like nothing stripped out, because they're like, you know what? I put like another 5% more effort into this stupid thing. I can make another 20%.
Exactly.
They all want to. They want the percentages.
It's all about upselling.
And that's how the system works.
I'm not trying to sound overly negative on this. Just to be the thing, like you're saying, I think if they do manage to topple the 5950X for $150 less, that's great.
Yeah.
It's a very nuanced conversation, I think.
Which is, of course, stair step. I mean, AMD will come out with their own.
Well, and also people are in the chat are like, wait, why are we still not comparing it to street prices versus these prices? Like, are the prices Intel showing right now different than what is going to be street price? Is it always different?
Oh, well, I would expect that they will be probably, but we just don't know. We don't know the street price.
Yeah, so we're talking theoretically about this pricing on their slides.
That's all we can
even
do.
though it's not going to be what it is on street.
Yeah, that's all we can do.
It's usually 20 to 40, very rarely $50 more than this is what I've seen in the past.
Yeah, and we'll see immediately, especially places like such as Newegg. Newegg, their automatic pricing engine is like, oh, it's $589 lists, day of launch, $700.
Yeah,
right. Because it's just like, you know what? We only got so many parts. Everybody wants to buy them. Should I do you a favor and sell something to you cheaper? Are you going to be a loyal customer? No, because you're not. You're going to go buy it from the cheapest place. So I'm going to make my money now. That's how most of them think.
Which always brings us to the same thing we've been talking about for a while. Is like, how do you have that argument of, oh, it's a good deal or it's not a good deal when prices are just so
right.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, that's again, the world is in an insane place. I think the good sign though is this is not a 3080. This is not a 3090 pricing where it's like, oh yeah, here's a $600 now going for a $1,900.
Right.
That's not
right.
It's not that. We did see markup on CPUs maybe 12 months ago. You couldn't get Ryzen 5000s forever, but now basically you can get them all day at their list price or a little lower. Some of them a little lower. So I think the problem is the GPU side has really kind of put a crimp on everything. So I think realistically, in 3 months, 589 is what you're going to be able to buy this part for.
Yep. And it's also worth pointing out that these don't have to deal with all the international shipping issues that AMD and NVIDIA have to do because they have their stuff made at Samsung and TSMC. Intel makes these parts right here in America, a lot of them at least.
True.
So
yeah. Although, what's your feeling about, are these, I mean, my gut says they're probably going to sell out fairly quickly for at least a week or two, don't you think? Or do you think, what do you think about that?
I think I sort of have adopted it'll be bad for 3 months kind of scenario for everything because every launch in the last 2 years, 3 years, even before all this, crazy weirdness in the world. Remember, like you would like the
definitely.
parts were just hard to get, especially AMD. It is one of those things that where AMD really would have had more market share if they had more capacity, right?
Right, and they said that in the earnings call too. Actually, they bought more GPU capacity, so their market share went up. But yes, that's the way it's working right now. Manufacturing supply is kind of governing things.
Yeah, so it'll be bad. I think it'll be immediately sold out, and then but Intel is a monster, right? And arguably, this is even as badly received as Rocket Lake was. Those things sold out immediately too. They were hard to get.
Yeah.
Every single chip immediately sells out. It doesn't matter. So I think it'll be bad for a few months, and then people will forget about this. All the arguing over the prices.
Well, Dr. Ian Cuttress makes a good point. Actually, it doesn't matter because DDR5 availability is probably going to be the weak link.
Could be.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. I mean, could very well be. I still have not.
If you go that way.
Has anybody seen any actual confirmed DDR5 prices? I've not been able to get anybody to tell me what
Prices?
I mean, actual like.
Well, Keith
module prices.
Keith reported on the weekly news segment just saying that I can't remember who it was. Maybe Corsair? No, I can't remember. One of them saying it's probably going to be 40 to 60% higher than
Yeah.
DDR4.
MSI said that. Yeah,
MSI,
MSI said
that's
that.
what
Yeah, but that's sort of like probably. I kind of want to. I just want to see like here's how much a 32 gig DIMM costs DDR5. I want to see that just so I get the shock. And I agree. Yeah, DDR5 is going to suck, but also I've never been through a memory transition where it didn't suck.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
every single one has sucked. I mean, so I'm not sure. I know a lot of people. This would be the first time they're going through it because their entire world has been DDR3 or DDR4, right?
DDR4,
So
yeah.
there have been many memory My God, think back to the original RAM bus. Those RDRAM modules were like how much?
God, yeah.
So it's always really bad.
Well, we got some more slides to go. I know we kind of
Yeah, we got and then
jumped
so
through
like
some of these. So
we'll just look at some of the performance. Next one is basically they're saying 19% improvement at ISO frequency, spec, SysMark 25, Crossmark, PC Mark 10, Web Expert, Geekbench 5.41. So there's definitely some things where, yeah, they're pretty good. And that, again, there's some things that are beyond that 19%. So it depends on what you're running because it's a completely new architecture. Next one is gaming performance. No joke here because, hey, 11900K I think it wasn't as bad as a lot of people say it is. Of course, obviously, I was outside probably the herd on that one. But clearly, Alder Lake is better than 11900K, according to Intel.
Mm-hmm.
Here may be some controversial one.
That's
It's
the
the
one.
leadership gaming performance.
Right.
This compares multiple games. 11th gen, Ryzen 5000 5950X, so arguably the best of the Ryzen parts, and a 12th gen 12900K. Rocket Lake.
Now, hang on a second, because we got to mention because these 5950X benchmarks were tested before the cache fix for Windows 11 was put into place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yep,
So
lots of people talking about that in the chat.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, Intel told everyone, I guess, that they had tested beforehand and that they would retest and re-release the results. I don't know when that's going to happen, but they at least committed publicly to it. So those numbers are going to change, but I don't know what they're going to be. So
Yeah.
And that's reasonable. People are looking at it like a boogeyman. I've seen people shouting conspiracy theories
Yeah,
online over this.
right.
I mean, it literally this was messed up for everybody.
Right, exactly.
And they just fixed it. I don't think there's any shadiness going on there.
I don't
think
either.
it was good of them to mention it.
yeah, they specifically called it out. Without any prompting. So I mean, I thought that was pretty upfront with their part.
Yeah.
So.
And then it kind of sucks for everybody because, again, remember, Alder Lake is going to run best on Windows 11.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they couldn't do like Windows 10 because then that hurts themselves. And
Right.
they're sure
Yeah,
as hell
right,
not
right
going to
here.
do that. And then it was just a bad situation for everybody. I'm sure they're going to rerun this. And also, I think people need to realize lawyers are no fun. Everybody knows a lawyer. And if you're a lawyer listening, you know you're no fun.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you are literally the person that kills all the fun in the room every time.
Speaking of no fun, I was just while you were talking, looking up. I have press releases from Corsair, Kingston, and G-Skill. And all of them say check with your local distributor.
Yeah. Ooh, that one's going to burn. Actually, when the MSI said that 40 to 60%, I was like, that seems really kind of rosy, frankly.
Yeah.
I expected it to be I would expect it to be 100%.
And these numbers too are 1080p, and I think they tested against a 3090. So sort of sure, it's a reasonable way to test, but probably not typical for the average user at this point.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the resolution, sure, not the GPU.
Well, plus also the high refresh rate panels are
Right.
Sort of change that equation. I sort of think everybody who wants to sort of wring their hands over this, just wait for the reviews to come out. Whatever that, I mean,
That's true.
even if they came out and said we were tested, we're still faster, you wouldn't believe them anyway. So just wait for the reviews. But I know that won't
But
matter.
you should do
still
anyway.
wanna complain on Twitter and Reddit about it. So I want to see it myself. So
Wait, you should wait for reviews to
you
buy
should
something?
you should wait for reviews to see. I think the reviews will probably give you a little more clarity. And again,
Of course it will.
they have their numbers that they have to do because they have to be able to make a claim, and then a lawyer has to check off on it so they don't get sued for making stuff up. And then it's baked. It's basically it's already baked in. All the stuff is done. And by the time they get around to retesting, and they're not going to, and getting a lawyer to approve it, it's just like, why bother to wait?
And
for
there are
that?
like pages of footnotes attached to these usually where they have all sorts of claims where they have, okay, this is our justification for this particular claim. So to their credit, they do that. So whether you believe it or not.
Dr. Ian Cuttress wants to know who's testing/writing the PC Root review.
Testing what?
Testing what? What are you talking about?
Yep. Okay. What's the next slide you want to go to?
Well, next one is just leaping game performance. This is Alder Lake versus Rocket Lake, and again, no kidding, they are faster than their Rocket Lake part. This next one shows off just basically productivity performance because it's not about gaming. It's not only about gamers with PCs, used for everything. We got Sysmark 15%, Crossmark 19%. There's also this. I love this new UL Procyon, by the way, 15% faster than Rocket Lake.
Basically, productivity testing, basically. Procyon.
Yeah, Procyon, and this is doing Office. And what's cool in this new version in 2.0 is they do it all at the same time.
Yeah,
so it's multitasking.
exactly.
It's actually very realistic. Nobody runs Word by itself. You run Word, Outlook, PowerPoint,
That's true.
and they do that. They run Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, Excel. Next one, of course. Next slide. Sorry, we're stepping through these pretty quickly, but this is pretty huge. No surprise, though. I think they did an Apple here, frankly. The giant leap for content creation. Intel is claiming 32% faster for 12th gen over 11th gen in Puget Premiere. Lightroom Classic, 36%, and then 100% After Effects. And I'm saying, of course, they're pulling an Apple because Rocket Lake is just kind of like, oh, that was a Fredo of the. Can you even say that anymore? It's a Godfather reference. That is a Godfather reference.
That's sure.
That is a Godfather. It was not a well-received chip. It was making the best of a bad situation, which is being stuck on 14 nanometer, and makes in some ways like 8-core versus a 16-core, either E-core, P-core. That's just like, that is not even, that's just a gimme, right? That's a gimme. So this is like Apple, like, no, we're so much faster than the laptop we have neglected for 3 years.
Right.
Just, okay.
Right.
Give me a break. So, and then one more slide here is a giant leap in performance content creation. 36% Puget Lightroom Classic overall. This is 11th gen versus 12th gen. Premiere Pro 32% again. Catalyst Benchmark 22%. Autodesk Revit 37%. After Effects again 100%. This is 12th gen against 11th gen. They just like, it's just so much better than the previous part. And then this one's actually very important.
Yeah, this is the fun one.
This is single-threaded fixed frequency performance, and it really, I think it helps me understand where this part is going to land. If these claims are correct,
Right. This is the gen over gen. This is the one that we want.
So for audio listeners, the first column is a 10th gen Intel Core part, which is basically your baseline. 11th gen is about 12% faster than the 10th gen, right? Those really popular 14 nanometer 10th gen parts. 12th gen is 28% on the P core over that 10th gen part. But the thing that really should make you go, huh? Is that 12th gen Intel E-core. Remember, these are what everybody thought would be Atom cores.
Yeah, right. The slow ones.
It's 1% faster than a 10th gen Intel Common Lake S.
Right. Slightly slower than 11th gen, but still, who cares? I mean, it's...
Yeah. I mean, to me, the thing is, it's sort of like the way to look at it is like you're getting 8 performance cores that are 28% faster than a Common Lake S. And then you're getting another 8 mini cores that are as fast. It's sort of like having a brand new CPU with another 8-core Common Legacy CPU tacked on there, right?
Yep, that's right. Mm-hmm.
So, and then of course they're making a lot of performance power claims. This next one is Y Performance Hybrid. This helps you understand it too. They're basically saying 11900K at 250 watts. You definitely are using, looks like, this is Blender Cosmos. Oh, I haven't heard of that one. Have I read this chart right? We may need some Ian expertise here because he could probably explain this. 50% higher multi-threaded performance at peak power with 12900K over 11900K. More power consumption, but 65 watts. And the 65 watt part, they are getting the same performance as an 11900K was at 250 watts.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, there's a little bit of foreshadowing here, I guess, for the mobile parts. I mean, you're not going to be running anything at 125, but still, you get a sense for, you just step down the power, performance scales appropriately. So,
yeah, no, and it really, it's going to be kind of a weird thing to figure out where this part falls in performance too and power. Although I've never kind of understood why people care so much about that on a desktop, but I'm old school. So,
real quick, Ian says Blender Cosmos means the latest Blender using the Cosmos scene.
Oh, okay. I've not seen that scene. I got to catch up on it. Blender can be really weird sometimes too. Like, I actually have a KB Lake workload that Intel had floated, and I ran it. It's like, this thing is like highly single threaded. How did you come up with a model for Blender that was like all single threaded? By the way, in the KB Lake days, so that was good for them, but I didn't use it. And the last actually very interesting thing is there's actually a new definition of power. This is the power definition update. Basically PL1, PL2, which frankly nobody ever understood what the hell it ever meant. The new names are processor base power and maximum turbo power. As I understand it, it's still a little hard for me to wrap my brain around, but basically it's a friendlier way to understand PL1, PL2. I think in some ways.
TDP's gone away as well.
Yeah. So, to me, it's all, I don't understand why people get a little too fixated on it because they don't all, the AMD and Intel sort of define it differently. So why bother to even get into the whole
true.
TDP thing is like talking about clock speeds.
Yeah.
Well, the more efficient you are, that's just the more powerful you can be, right? That's why TDP matters. Beyond the fact that you might be in a place where electricity is expensive or it's hot and stuff like that.
Powerful.
But I mean, like the more efficient part, you can theoretically push it further. So it does matter.
No, I think it does matter. I think it's just so hard to, it's like how long can I talk on my cell phone in minutes? I don't know. Or how long can I use my cell phone? Or what's my mileage going to be like? Nobody in the world has ever hit EPA numbers. Like maybe you drop my car off a cliff, it would hit those EPA numbers, but it would never do it.
Right.
So I just don't think it's a useful reference, but people get a little too like, oh my God, kind of caught up in the whole thing.
Oh, one thing we didn't mention was the fact that we don't have yet a all P-core processor. That was remember we were talking, that was the.
Yeah, they haven't announced that, right?
They haven't announced it, yeah. So we have, if that's coming, that's coming in the future. We haven't seen that yet.
And this is in reference to a game optimization guide that said there will be parts without. And actually, it looked to me like basically a 6P core, no E core version. So sort of if the leaks, I mean, the thing is Intel basically pulled it and they said, yeah, that was something we shouldn't have published. It was still being reviewed.
Right.
But reviewing it, it actually showed as a 6-core P core.
Interesting.
So you could see so right now your i5 is a 6-core 6.4.
Right.
Well, you know what? We're going to take away those 4 Comet Lake cores. And that's gonna really hurt multi-threaded performance. So that's what I think it's gonna be pitched as.
That's interesting. I would have thought they would have gone like an 8-core or a 10-core and just like called it an X part.
That's what I sort of thought they would do, but then it would get weird because if their numbers are right, the E cores do help.
Yeah.
So
true.
you lose that sort of. I would think a 10-core, 10-core Sapphire Rapids would potentially lose to a 16-core Ryzen, right?
Yeah, you would think.
Because they probably
multi-threaded.
They probably balance the math out, and you sort of take some of the cores. If you have bad core, then you sort of resell it. That's what I sort of thought it would be, some kind of insane overclocking part, like a KB Lake X,
right,
which
exactly.
was KB Lake X was clearly not well received. So, but that was a part made specifically to break overclocking records.
True.
Of course, everybody thought, regular people would want to buy it, and no, they wouldn't want to buy it. So
Yeah. And they finally broke their overclocking record. They just didn't. Oh, they did it.
Yesterday, right?
Yeah, they didn't. They couldn't quite manage it on stream, but they did it later.
Oh, okay. What were they going for?
I don't know. Actually, I didn't see the number. It was one of those things where the camera was too far away to see the screen.
Yeah, and I saw that in the roundtable they did afterward. Pat Gelsinger's like, yeah, I remember the overclocking demo we did that crashed too. It's like it happens, and it's true, it does happen. I know everybody wants to, get aggro about it, but it happens.
That's the nature of overclocking, especially when you're trying to set records.
Yep,
Do
absolutely.
you think Bill Gates fired that person though when they got that blue screen? 'Cause that's like the other famous one where they had blue screen during the demo.
Ian says they got 6.8.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
Also, we have a stack of super chats I want to get to. Thank you so much. Number one full nerd fan, aka V Suggester, said in before anyone else, will the 12900K be faster than a Ryzen 6000? Not serious. Hi, Gordon.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah,
Nobody's asked the Mac question yet, but we got a $19.99 super chat from Marlon Yamzon. Hi. Said, no questions asked. Just wanted to say keep up the good work. You guys keep me entertained while I'm at work. So, yeah,
Great.
of course.
And you know what?
Thanks.
I always say, you tell your boss, hey, I'm
research.
watching a PC World stream. I'm learning about computers, boss. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's work.
It's like accreditation.
You're not watching none of those Gamers Nexus or videos, are you? Or Tech Potato?
Those gamers. We got $5 from.
Oh, serious, boss.
We got $5 super chat from Kevin Weiss. Thank you so much. Said Corsair has DDR5 on their website, 32 gig, 5200 mega transfers for $289.99. 32 gig for almost
A single
300.
DIM. I'm trying to think of what 32 gig.
No, I think it's 216.
Oh, 216.
Yeah. So for almost 300.
So that's what, about 100% markup, maybe? See, that's what I sort of would have expected, but that's a 5200 kit. So
The memory guys are so cutthroat. I'm sure they're going to try to squeak out every bit of profit margin they can until competition forces their prices
And
down.
I think people they just don't understand how it works with the whole memory business too. I mean, I don't know if it's changed, but all I remember is memory was like, that boom or bust wasn't like, that was like, for them, it was just like, they went from like running the fabs to make memory so they can sell it at a loss.
Right.
What the hell kind of business is that, right? If I don't sell
Make it
this
up
to
in
you,
volume.
even though I'm losing money, I lose more money.
Right.
That is a terrible business. So let me tell you, when it's a sunny day, you want to stock up. You want to put as many nuts underground as you can, because
Yeah,
those rainy days in the RAM business, like it is ugly.
We also got a $45 super chat. Thank you so much from Mike Quinton. Really appreciate it. Said, will Alder Lake require a wind tunnel class cooler?
I don't know. I
Nor
mean,
do
I will be interested to see what the narrative will be on power. Like again, like when I look at like sort of my Rocket Lake coverage, because no doubt Rocket Lake was impressive. It looked like a Saturn V taking off in like 1968 or something, right?
It's a
it was just
rocket.
like it was like, man, it's just climbing. It's like and it was slower than a 5900X easily, right? So that was terrible. But then I also realized that was a narrative that everybody gave to Rocket Lake. It was like, this chip is a gas guzzler, horrible performing chip. It's just terrible. And I agree that yes, if you're doing all core something like a handbrake, or you're doing an all core render, yeah, it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool, like in a 1968 Challenger way. Like, man, you got 6 miles to the gallon, and you're actually still slower than a 2021 Corolla turbo, but it was just impressive. But actually, Rocket Lake, if you actually looked at the power consumption on Rocket Lake doing normal things, gaming, actually doing Photoshop, Word, it wasn't as bad as people painted it out to be.
I don't believe they mentioned this cooling at all, honestly. I don't think we've heard anything about it.
Ian says that reviewer kits are including 360 AIOs.
Really?
They all do these days, I think.
Your kids, huh? That's interesting.
But I am, we'll have to see what happens. But we were just talking about why performance hybrid, and they were saying performance is equal at 65 watts as to what used to be 250 watts. So I consider that a good sign, just in the early days at least, until we do see those independent reviews.
Yeah. And I sort of think like the high kind of crazy power you can consume and being slow would be Rocket Lake. So if they're under that and they're faster, then
Yeah.
it's up to you to complain or not complain, or just go, yeah, that's actually that I will accept that amount of power for the performance I'm getting. Rocket Lake clearly was not.
I mean, the transition from
Acceptable
a
for a
sort
lot
of
of
a
people.
traditional architecture to this performance hybrid. I mean, we probably will see some sort of a step function in terms of cooling. I would imagine that'll be the sort of the new bar for everything going forward. I would imagine.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, we do have a question. €2 super chat, I think that's what it is. Thank you so much from Magnum Skywolf. It says, is launch day embargoes common for CPUs?
For review embargoes, yeah, it's very common. I think most of the CPUs in the last 20 years have had
Sure.
you've had reviews embargoes.
I suspect he's asking if it's common for it to be the day of the
When you can
launch.
buy them.
Because Gamers Nexus made a
right.
big deal. Steve Mate was talking about how it stinks that it's timed for the launch time and not like the day before, as you will often see like with graphics cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean that it gets into the whole like it's almost like our movie reviewer, right? When you have the reviews coming out the day of the first, I mean, then you start getting a little suspicious. But I wouldn't read that much into it in this case. I don't know.
Well, you could. There's only two ways to read it, which is one. We have our mouths have written checks. Our CPUs cannot cache, so we are going to launch it with
Which
all
is
the
not a good
hoopla. No reviewers can talk about it, and wait till later, right? Because that's one interpretation. I'm sure there's people on the internet are saying they are trying to hide stuff.
Right.
The other one is we want to elongate the good news cycle.
Well, we're talking about what's October 28th right now. I mean, they need to get this part in the market, quite frankly, because I mean, you know, we've had launches previously. I mean, we had launches earlier. I remember doing these things in like August. You know, Skylake, I want to say. I could be wrong. Yeah, I mean, you get out into, you know, that late October time frame, and just all of a sudden it's just like, you only have a certain window to buy this stuff for the holidays. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure everyone's encouraging them to get this stuff out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, no, that's true. It is very late for a CPU launch. But again, I think it's world events, and who knows what was holding it up. But
Yeah.
I think it's okay.
I'm not personally worried by it. By
Either
the
way,
fact that it's time for the same day.
either way, we'll find out.
Yeah.
We will find out. And
I think it's the people who are saying it's a bummer because they might be interested in pre-ordering, but now if they can't know until the day it drops, then they've missed the pre-order window or whatever.
Well, I mean, you know, we got the numbers right now, so if people want to pre-order, they can. I mean, but you know, obviously, you always want to wait for reviews. That's a safe bet.
I disagree. Gordon always yells at me. I'm a firm, never pre-order kind of guy.
Usually
But
not.
it's especially in the case of something like this. This is a whole new architecture. There's going to be all kinds of things like needs to get poked and prodded. Even if you're the kind of person who normally pre-orders, like when it's a whole new radical new technology, that's especially the time to be cautious about putting your money down.
I'm totally with you, Brad, because I was going to pre-order my two 3080s. I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait for the reviews. I'm not going to pre-order my 3080s now. I sure am glad, because, you know, that is going to really pay off, because I'm going to be really safe.
What really stinks is all the people who sold off their 1080 Ti's before.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, everybody has a certain risk factor. Same thing with Ryzen. Same thing. They said the same thing with Ryzen 5000, right? They said wait for reviews, don't order it going off just the AMD claims. Well, you know what? Those people like that walked out of that Micro Center with that 5950X in the day one, they had it months before other people could actually buy the things.
The one question I would have liked to have asked, and I'm not sure if it was asked because I haven't seen a response to it, but with the Intel Innovation as well as this launch itself, is I would really like to know, since we're talking about supply, and supply is such a critical situation right now, I would like to know how many wafers or how many chips they've allocated for Alchemist for their Arc product, because I mean that's coming out early next year. You know, if we're talking about GPUs being so difficult to find, I would love to know if they have just anticipate getting a small sliver of the market, so their initial Alchemist launch is going to be fairly slim, or if they're really saying, hey, look, we can just roll this stuff out en masse, and if you want an Alchemist chip, you'll have an Alchemist chip. I would have loved to have had something along those lines coming out of the recent news from Intel, and unfortunately we haven't. So hopefully we'll, you know, see some more information about that going forward. But yeah, I mean, I kind of want to know the GPU side of things as well.
Yeah, they did do a demo, right? So they showed more of the AI upscaling. That's looking pretty good, looking really good.
Right.
32 EUs, I think that was already out there.
Availability is going to be a critical element, though. I mean, just having a part in the market will just.
Ultimately. I mean, they're not. Remember, Alchemist is made by TSMC.
I know, and I would have not. You know, that's the thing. I mean, Pat would be like the person to have asked to know. It's like, oh yeah, we paid them $5 billion. We're gonna get thousands and millions of wafers, but we don't know. So.
I got some good questions here. One just came in from a friend of the show, Flash Photo, said, is the IGP the same architecture as the upcoming Intel Arc GPUs?
Yeah, I forget it is, right?
7700, yeah.
It's UHD because they don't put the amount of EUs because it's a desktop part. Why waste it, frankly? Why waste die space? But I believe it is. I think that was sort of their rejiggering of all of it.
Yes, right. That's mine. I believe so. Yeah. I'd have to go.
I would think it would be the Z cores.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and check my notes, but I believe so.
Also earlier, Ian had a question for you, Mark. Said, will the Core i3 use the mobile silicon, the desktop silicon, a new silicon, or will it be a Rocket Lake refresh?
Oh, that would be interesting.
I would assume it would use the new silicon. It would just probably be a different mix of performance and E-cores, I would imagine, right? So, you could go ahead and, I mean, we have a lot of, I mean, the thing is with the ratios of performance P-cores and E-cores, you have a lot of wiggle room to sort of play around with it. I mean, you could go 2 P-cores, 4 E-cores, you could go a lot of different ways. I mean, that's a nice thing about the flexibility of the architecture is that you can roll it in, you have different knobs to tweak. You have core clock speeds, you have turbo clock speeds, base clock speeds, different performance core numbers, efficiency core numbers. Eventually you'll have, I imagine you'll have generations, of course, for each of these, so you can go ahead and go that route as well. I would assume that the only thing I would assume that we're not going to have like a Pentium Gold version of Alder Lake quite yet. I would assume that's going to be still the older architecture. But yeah,
I'm going to be curious to see if they've already talked about, or even if it might have been an accident, all P-core versions. I'm curious if it's possible to have an all E-core version if the architecture supports that or not, because that could be a Core i3.
Yeah,
that could be
true.
a Core i3.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I can answer that or not. I think.
Don't then.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no knowledge of that. So
Yeah, I do have a question though on the Rocket Lake part. This is a good point. Intel has a crap load of 14 nanometer capacity,
Sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with all that things? And the thing is, I think what is a really good point Ian is asking here, by the way, Dr. Ian Kutcher is Tech Potato. Go check out his channel. Good stuff. If you really want to learn something. But i3 people, and those are the cheap seats. Like, you know what? You want first class service, you got to pay for it.
Right.
I can see very much, and I got bit by this too recently in a video I did, but AMD reused cores and they just renamed them 5000 on the cheap seats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lower end. I could see them doing that, and it's just because you don't really care. I mean, you got the stupid 90% of people using laptops. They're not sitting there using DaVinci Resolve all day.
Yeah,
as
right,
much as
exactly.
people want people to believe that.
Right.
But.
Yeah, but you're right about the 14 nanometer capacity. I mean, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't know.
God, what do you do with it? Because I would just think like you would just want to.
Well, I mean,
a lot of Chromebook mouths to feed.
Get forklifts and move it over to the Foundry business. I don't know. I'm not sure if anyone would want that.
But don't you, if you're Intel, don't you want to like, man, we got this. We got Qualcomm coming, and I want to put the hammer down on Qualcomm. Whatever. We got these parts. Sell them. And 14 nanometer part, as much of a dog it is on a desktop and even the mobile versus the modern stuff. Snapdragon is like still can't hold a handle to it in Chrome OS.
But you can use 14 nanometer for stuff. I mean, chipsets, obviously. You can use it for IoT, I suppose. Well, I don't know. But there's options, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think it would still be fine for Core i3s, like that question insinuated.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
it seems reasonable.
But it would just be cool to go to war with them. Like everybody on the lower end. Any ARM parts trying to encroach in on these things. Blow the things out,
Mm-hmm.
Ian is guessing that I know, right? That the Pentium Gold is 8 E-cores only. That'd be funny.
Eventually, it just feels like, but we see this across. No one's putting money into the cheap seats. right? Because you are an economy on Southwest because you're an economy on Southwest. And there's like we don't really care about you. If you would pay us more, we would care. So I just can see like we just reuse everything we have, right? Why even bother to use your eCourse?
Well, Chromebooks are getting a lot more love, though. I mean, there's a fair number of vendors that have those iCore based, sort of premium Chromebooks, which I don't quite understand the reason for. But then there's the lower, like, okay, we're gonna just find it in a back shelf on Amazon. You can have it for $200.
Yeah,
but those are traditionally the Atom, N-Class, Pentium,
right?
Celeron.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, those are the ones.
Those are some dogs. They're for Chrome OS. They're usable.
Yeah,
but if you use like a Core class Chromebook next to
it's
an N-Class,
absolutely measurable
it's
difference.
A huge difference. And then, but I just kind of think, well, the threat on Chrome is people doing ARM, right? Google really doesn't care what's in the thing. They just want to.
Yeah, that's right.
And all the OEMs, they don't care. So I would just think it'd be kind of a good place to repurpose those kind of lower end parts.
Seems reasonable. Yeah, especially as we head into the holiday season. I mean, we're going to see probably 8th gen deals this holiday season. Anyways, I mean, they're just going to be like, okay, what do we got in the back room? Let's shovel it out there. Yeah, you want it, you got it.
Yeah, no, that's true, right?
Yep.
We have a couple of other good questions. Pillicoon, a friend of the show, says, I'm still a bit confused why we need Big Little on the desktop or hybrid.
I think the argument would be made at this point, as I can understand it, is like, look, if we put 16 P cores into this thing, you would be probably beyond the power and thermals of a mainstream socket. Yeah, you could put this in some big ass, Core X or Ryzen's class motherboard that costs $800, but it's like it's a really good balance of like, we want to be able to, one, give you really good lightly threaded performance because we have our new 19% IPC over our older things. But we know all you people in the press are pains in the asses and running all your Cinebenches and always saying, oh my God, look at all this Cinebench. And so now you basically take these mini Comet Lake-esque parts, you throw them in there. Now you sort of get the best of both worlds. You get that very, very high core density, and you also get, very, very fast single thread performance, I think is probably the way they would say that. And also, this actually kind of helped explain it. Roger said this recently in one of his presentations, and it was like, look, I know you people think we're insane to put Atom in this, and you think hybrid, you think, well, this is what you put in your stupid phone, right? This is like underpowered. It's like, no, this is not a Nissan Leaf that somebody is annoying you at driving 27 miles an hour and 35 mile an hour zone in front of you. This is a high performance hybrid, right? A Tesla, through the power of, electricity, will whoop like 99% of any combustion ICE engine, right? Because you have that infinite torque. And it's sort of like, think of this as basically a high performance hybrid, not as a Nissan Leaf annoying you. Sorry, Nissan Leaf owners.
I mean, in some ways it benefits the consumer because, I mean, you could have a high performance processor and you could have it sort of just, and Intel used to do this. I mean, they called it hurry up and get idle. I mean, you would take a task and you would dedicate that entire core to it and just finish it up, and then you would just drop down to a low power mode. But that's power. I mean, what Intel's trying to do, I think, with this is kind of design a chip that's appropriate for performance as well. If you have a high performance chip and it completes the task and then goes idle, you still have that high performance chip sitting in front of you. It costs money to make and to buy. If you can go ahead and devote a more appropriate core towards that appropriate task, it benefits everybody. It benefits Intel and it benefits the consumer as well. In some sense, that's why we had. Well, I'm not sure this is the best example, but I'll just continue anyways. I mean, an ASIC, for example, is a good example. It's an application-specific IC. You take a chip, you design it to do a specific task, and it's usually a little bit cheaper, a little bit smaller, a little bit less expensive to manufacture than a general-purpose computer or general-purpose CPU. But, there's money attached to that design cycle and so forth, but it is more efficient from that regard. So I think what Intel is trying to do is just to simply say, hey, look, there are foreground tasks and background tasks, and we're trying to develop a processor that can be applied to both. And they're going to tweak it too. I mean, this is their first. I mean, this is the first. We've seen ARM do this with their Big Little, as you mentioned. Intel's sort of adapting this to the core side of things. But you've seen ARM. Not just ARM has evolved now into essentially 3 cores. I mean, it's not just Big Little anymore. It's Performance Core and the middle one, which I've forgotten the name of. I want to say just Power. I don't know, middly core. And then they have their little cores, their efficiency core. So I mean, they've gone to essentially a 3-core model, and we could see that happening with Intel as well. I mean, it just might be. I don't know enough about processor design to know if this is the evolution of the processor, but it sort of feels like this is the direction that people are going.
Yeah. And
for what it's worth, however, I believe it was in the 5th anniversary Ryzen interview that Robert Halleck and other people had from AMD. They said that they're going to keep sticking with big core design. So we'll get to see the actual tangible differences within the duration.
That's good. Different schools of thought.
I mean, frankly, the best thing about having, Zen 4, Alder Lake, whatever Apple's doing, M2, is you pick what works for you.
Right.
That's all it comes down to. So and I think I love Ryzen, 16-core Ryzen, because it was just like, that was insane to give people 16 cores. I love the idea of 16 cores. Do I need 16 cores? Does anything I do every day 99% of the time need 16 cores? You got to decide. Based on what I do, hell no. For somebody else, maybe Adam, yeah. So you pick. And I think maybe it's sort of the best of both worlds. We realize vast majority of consumers are not sitting there, doing 3D modeling all day.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. AMD has smart people, I'm sure. They're making their decisions based upon their own justifications.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the funny thing is next year will be more exciting than this year.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a question from Z530. Maybe that's how you say it. Yeah, maybe. Should I hold on to my DDR4 system for a year or two before DDR5 stabilizes, or should I go with DDR5 now? What would you do, Gordon?
It depends on what you use it for and how much you have to, what do they call it? Backwards bragging or something? Mm-hmm. This is when you brag about yourself or something? When you're talking to your friends, like, yeah, man, I took it. It's $300 for 32
Humble
gigs.
brag.
Humble brag. Mm-hmm. Oh, that DDR5 is so expensive. Then yes, it's worth it. If you're going to humble brag about it as a practical purpose, probably not. It rarely ever pays to be on the bleeding edge.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on how much you want to be on the bleeding edge.
Also, too, is the whole Franken PC thing. I mean, if your DDR4 works, I mean, you don't want to spend extra money for it, right?
Yeah, and I think you're talking about, because DDR5, there's only one CPU for it now, so you're talking about building a whole new CPU with Alder Lake and DDR5, Zen 4 next year with DDR5. So it just depends on what you're using it for. I mean, it's not like you can go buy DDR5 to put in your system now. You need a new CPU and motherboard. So
nice.
Yep. Speaking of memory.
Yeah, do we want to just...
speaking of memory, I have this great memory of me reading or talking about Avast One that I just remembered. That we should talk about Avast. We should talk about security. We should talk about keeping your system safe. Whether you're rocking an old 2500K system or maybe thinking about upgrading to one of these new 12th gen parts, you need security, right, Gordon? Right?
Definitely.
You should keep.
It is job one.
You should keep yourself secure. Not go to any of those nasty websites, but also just in case you do go to those websites, maybe get Avast One. The free version has antivirus, VPN for when you need to be on public Wi-Fi, free firewall protection, all that fun kind of stuff. But the premium version also has more advanced protection. You can learn more about Avast One at avast.com. Go check it out. You should keep yourself safe. You should keep yourself secure. You should also maybe implement these new XMP 3.0 profiles if you have access to it. What do you think, Gordon?
Yeah, no, that was actually kind of one of the cooler things people did not pay attention to that came out of this is XMP 3. Of course, XMP has been out for since 2007-ish.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know, XMP is basically extreme memory performance. Although I guess they couldn't call it EMP. That would probably wouldn't
bad.
work, right?
No.
What's cool about this one is they've added more profiles. So there's 3 vendor profiles that are available for XMP. So today, if you buy DDR4 module, there's 2 XMP profiles available. And this is the trickiest part, though. There's 2 rewritable profiles. So if you buy, they actually had a screenshot of, I didn't include it, but they had a screenshot of a Corsair memory utility. You can say like, hey, here's Gordon's, profile for gaming, or here's Gordon's profile for content creation. You can sort of tune it for what works best, write that profile directly to the module, and it'll stay on there, which is pretty neat. Well, let's just do slide 3.
Okay. Well,
XMP3.
Okay. Give me a second.
So it's XMP3 is a slide. It basically shows for audio listeners, shows off XMP 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. And the features, obviously you're getting 3 profiles instead of 2 of the other ones, and you're getting 2 rewritables. And also they're doing checksum to make sure you're just not screwing up the module or something, right? And then also there's just more space. And all these are tunings for the individual memory modules that are stored on a chip on the DIMM called an SPD, serial presence detect. Basically, you boot up your board, it looks at those settings for all the memory subtimings, the clocks, all that stuff, sets it, and then now it could say, Gordon's content creation. You can pick it. So,
looking at the slide, like, don't get me wrong, I love all of this. These are great improvements. I love it. It amuses me that slide says continued commitment to XMP innovation, because really it came out in 2007 and nothing has happened since.
Yeah, I wrote this story about the XMP, and I just had forgotten all the memory wars that had occurred. And the thing is, you're not even talking about memory wars like actual physical RAM, DRAM. I'm talking about the physical profile memories, because NVIDIA got into this first with Corsair, with EPP. They were pushing it when NVIDIA was making Intel chipsets for Intel CPUs and AMD CPUs, and they sort of like, hey, we can get more performance if we sort of do tune performance with Corsair. They called theirs SLI memory. God, I wish I kept those. I'm such a dummy. I throw away history. And then, of course, AMD got on board with AMP because they had to have something too, because, the world is, they needed stuff tuned for themselves. In the end, NVIDIA lost. AMD is still there with AMP, sort of, but they have, or for the most part, have adopted it. But XMP is rules the world, and sort of the politics of it sometimes can mean like everybody makes memory for Intel CPUs with XMP, so performance is best for Intel. And you've seen this on some laptops where people go like, "Oh, the subtimings are terrible for this Ryzen laptop." Well, because it's really hard to get SODIMMs probably with AMD profiles, because everybody tunes for Intel. So it's just kind of a funny thing where, was it intentionally to run the world, or I don't know, but it's cool stuff. But actually even cooler though is slide 4.
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Which is XMP4 for the slide, Adam. Yep. This is Intel Dynamic Memory Boost technology.
Yep. This is neat.
This is kind of why I think like, hey, let's widen the profiles here. This is neat because you can basically run your default memory clocks, and then the system will automatically ramp up to one or maybe many of the XMP profiles available. So maybe you don't need that higher clock, or maybe you can just stay at the standard clock.
Right. Yeah, previously it was manual toggling, I believe. It was just you had to set it in the BIOS, right?
Yeah, you could. Yeah. There was real time. The couple generations ago, they actually had added the ability to change frequency in real time.
Right, you could toggle it, right.
But it wasn't really fully baked, it felt like. And this looks like now the memory controller does it on its own.
Yeah, it just does it on its own in the background. That's great. Yeah, I mean, it's just like it adjusts the frequency for a CPU or anything of that sort.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll make it really interesting, because you might, in gaming, maybe you may need the memory bandwidth, say, for encoding Premiere or something. So you need all that bandwidth. Crank the clocks up. I'm gaming. I want low latency. Let's crank the clocks back. Mm-hmm. So that's actually a pretty cool feature.
Yeah.
Ian clarifies that dynamic memory boost still needs to be manually enabled in the BIOS.
But it works once it's on.
Once
though,
you're on. Yeah. Once it's on, it does it automatically.
But it actually does something now. It sounds
yes.
like.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think and I don't think is it. I think that's like a TBD kind of feature too, right?
I don't know.
But anyway, cool
Yeah,
stuff.
It's a capability.
And it's neat because you get this with DDR5 because you're getting the expanded profiles. We'll have to see how it plays out in the long run. But
I like it though. It's good to see them doing stuff there. I like it a lot.
Yeah. It makes it a little bit tougher to test, does it? Or not? I guess you just go ahead and turn it on, leave it on.
Just
Anyway, that's
one more-
realistic.
one more damn variable. I mean, I don't know. That's one of those things where somebody will, You need to set your timing, sub-timings.
There'll be a YouTube channel that tests it on and off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I will wait for testing from Ian or Steve or something.
There you go. We do have a question. I'll hold this one later. Never mind.
Cool.
And anything else for XMP?
No, I mean, it's a neat feature. Again, I do want to point out the interesting way that dynamic has played out over the last 15 years, but this XMP3, I welcome our new XMP3 overlords.
Before we move on to the fun segment people are waiting for.
Really?
Number one full nerd fan, VC Chester, thank you so much. Gave us a $20 super chat, said
Wow.
to buy Adam a pirate hat and an eye patch for his Avast sponsorship spiel. That's pretty funny. We'll
When are
do
we
this
gonna-
a couple more times.
Do we take Ethereum, just out of curiosity?
No, but actually in Discord earlier we were talking about TFN NFTs, full nerd NFTs.
Yeah, there we go.
I got
Absolutely.
that.
That's right.
See, we knew it was coming, so we titled this podcast TFN
Nice.
so that we could call it
Nice.
NFT.
NFTs, I'm still. It's one of those things where you feel increasingly old because it's one of the things like I don't really even care to know what that is because that has no appeal.
I
It's
can
like
take a picture of you, and then it's a JPEG, and then I can transfer it into an NFT, and you can make millions off it.
it's like when my son or daughter mentions some song from somebody. It's like who? What?
Well, you know what?
For me-
I could take a picture of the new MacBook Pro that Macworld reviewed and sell that picture.
Absolutely.
Or the rights to that picture.
Sure.
I guess I don't know. Who knows?
Yep.
Gordon. So the reviews for the MacBook Pro are out. You did not review it, correct?
No, I didn't.
No, but we had Roman, who's kind of been on the show before. He reviewed the M1 Pro, not the Max version. I don't know the full details of the review, but his review, everybody else's reviews out there. What's the sentiment? Should we even just wrap it up? It's done. The PC's done. Is that what it is?
I actually would say looking around it, where the M1, when the M1 came out, it was the end of all other things that exist in the universe. It's like the Thanos glove or something. It feels like a lot of the reviews were a little more nuanced with this one, right?
What?
Well, I mean, like definitely, it is. I mean, it's amazing, right? Because you're getting more cores. The M1, the CPU side was whatever the hell. The compute side is what you expected. The graphics cores, amazing for what it is, but it felt like it was really hard for people to sort of like contextualize it in a way that applies to the PC. The ones that only care about, using it to dunk on somebody else. Like Macworld, all the Roman stuff is comparing it to previous Macs, which it crushes.
Right.
No
Exactly.
surprise.
Well, of course.
And of course it should. So it's a great part for people on Mac Island. So I think that it's everything you ever expected. It's a good part for what it is. But what I didn't feel like I saw was the slam dunking of people going around on Twitter like they did before the launch with all their chest thumping. I didn't see that chest thumping quite as much afterwards because it's like I mean, I think it's totally not the right thing to apply. But people are like, in actual gaming, this thing is slower than a 3060.
Well, I mean, the performance push or the performance boost comes from just adding more cores. I mean, we've seen this before in the PC space. I mean, AMD's made a business out of it for the last couple of years, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the fact that, if you were hoping for an IPC improvement from generation to generation, we just haven't seen it yet. Not with this, anyways. There's obviously something waiting in the wings for that.
That was the interesting part to me, the fact that there was no IPC increase. Like single thread, M1 Pro were the exact same. The other thing that was interesting to me is like if you look at, I forget what he ran, Geekbench, Cinebench, like there are pretty substantial multi-thread performance increases, which is great.
Yeah, there are.
I'm just confused by how that works out because the chip that he tested has 10 cores in the M1 Pro. The original M1 had 8. So just adding 2 more cores, the big leap shouldn't be as big as it is.
Well,
when
it was
there's no IPC improvement. So I was kind of confused by that.
yeah, because it was the thing is the original was 4.4, so God,
Oh yeah.
yeah, so
Oh, yeah.
you're getting 4.4, and with this one it's like 8.2.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's doubling the amount of
Yeah, true.
P cores, to use Intel terminology, and you get 2 E cores as well to run all the background stuff. So it was, it was everything you expected. Cool stuff, and it's a GPU side that I think it's, it's a good. I mean, the thing is, it's exactly what I have no problems going back to what I said. If I'm wrong, I'll admit I was wrong. But if you're going to use it for Final Cut and you're going to use it in a task that is optimized in Premiere, it's going to be a monster. It's going to be great.
Yep.
Good stuff. You're going to use it for gaming, it's going to suck.
Oh,
But who cares? It's a Mac. You're
yeah,
not playing
right.
games on a Mac.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like,
I mean, the optimizations between the software and the hardware have always been traditionally an Apple innovation. So, good for them. Nothing wrong with that.
the thing about the M1 Max and Pro again, it's just sort of like Adobe is the application that makes everybody. If you don't have Adobe, you don't exist. Right. It's like what, and I was just saying earlier, like it's like when Bill Gates showed up on Apple's event on the theater to say, hey, we're going to do Office on the Mac, because without Office, you would be gone. I would put you in the dust pile with the Amiga and Atari ST, and people would bust you out in the museum in 20 years, sucker. But I mean, Office was that in 1984.
Yeah, that's right.
Microsoft supported them. They've made a good business from it. And now basically Adobe's in the same place, because Adobe is like, you ain't got Adobe, you ain't got nothing.
Right.
So
Yes. And if Microsoft had some sort of high performance version of Office, but an application within Office, like their own photo editor or movie editor, if they, they're light years behind Adobe. But I mean, if they went that route, then we might see we might see a difference a difference of emphasis, I suppose, with Microsoft taking more of an active role in that development as well. Because you're right, Adobe is the app that's pushing the limits at this point.
yeah, and I think go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just saying it comes down to the optimization. So now it's like, I don't even know if Adobe does anything anymore, or do they just call up Intel, Nvidia, or Apple, or AMD to some extent, but
Very good
AMD
licensing.
does not have. They just call them up and say, hey, we need a new feature. We need you to do all the money, the heavy lifting on this, right? And we are going to build it into our application. We charge everybody $50 or $60 a month for, and Apple and Intel and Nvidia are like,
Well,
when do you need it? How high do you want me to jump?
It's definitely fair to say, though, that the AI capabilities of these processors, the Adobe with their, with whatever you want to call it, Magic Wand or whatever it might be, they certainly are taking advantage of it in a very public way, which is good. Yeah, that's useful, because nobody really else is. I mean, I don't really see. I guess we've talked about AI from a gaming perspective, but
It's not there yet. It's not there yet.
Not really. No.
But it really is amazing stuff. There is this like aging feature that is built into Photoshop. It's basically the blog that announced it. It's like, hey, thanks for doing this, NVIDIA, right? We work with NVIDIA on this. Like, NVIDIA did this. But it's a really cool feature because you can make people look older, and there's just neat stuff. You can make them smile. And it's all server-centric, though. It's not client-centric, unfortunately. But you could see that eventually going down into your laptop or desktop.
Sure. That's right.
Yeah. Speaking of the graphics stuff, though, Roman didn't test Photoshop, but he tested a whole bunch of other graphic stuff. The gaming, not just Roman's review, but other reviews I saw around the thing, people are like, wow, this is not as good as I thought as it would be in gaming, because Macs aren't really for gaming. But if you look at all the other stuff that he tested, like Basemark, he did Blender benchmark, he did Corona benchmark, it's all like 140 to 185% faster than the M1, which is a huge, huge step up if you are a content creator on Macs. And this is only the Pro with 16-core GPU. The M1 Max has up to 32 cores, so this GPU looks like no joke for content creators.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be. It feels like it's going to be the ultimate Mac OS based content creation laptop. It's going to be great.
Did he talk
Apple does
about
the
power? Because that was one of their claims, is like, hey, we're either maybe faster, maybe a little slower than top Windows laptops, but power consumption is 80% less or something. Did he? No, we don't know.
I don't know if he got into that, but to me it's just like whatever. Like I'm so sort of over the whole like people wanting to shout each other over the wall, because it's just like if you're in the Mac OS ecosystem, you are trapped on Mac Island now, and that's exactly what you want, because you want everything from Apple. that's fine. More power to you. But they're so different now at this point. You know, you're not going to play games on your Mac, except that. So it's just you buy the right tool for yourself. So why bother to get hot about it? But people still do. So, but it is interesting because it's like that. Even the Max part that I've seen some of the benchmarks out there, they're like, yeah, it's maybe 3060 in actual. Of course, you know, you're looking at an emulated game because you're not running it.
Yeah, right.
But still, it's not. People saying, "Oh my God, it's 3080." I don't know.
And I've seen some that can get up to maybe 3070 class. Usually more around 3060 is the ones I've seen with the M1 Max.
Yeah, and you know I'm gonna
Which is great.
I'm gonna paraphrase Jensen, but you know what? If I turn on ray tracing, hardware ray tracing, I crush it. Because you know there's just so many things, and there's actually, you know, GPU based rendering using ray tracing. I can tell you it'll crush a Max, but it's, again, if you're not using the application, who cares?
Right.
So just, you know, I think, you know, I will say it's just people are beforehand, all those tweets saying, "Oh my God, it's over for you. NVIDIA's done. Intel's done." People literally said that. I don't hear none of that chatter now. Right.
Yeah, it's real interesting because it really is a really good and really interesting part. These are really good chips that Apple is making. But it almost felt like their marketing talked too big for this event because that's what everyone was saying. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, dang, that's a good part. But I feel kind of let down looking at them. And not just because I'm a PC guy, but because it felt like it was going to be like this huge revelation.
Well, the leaks and the leaks and the pre-reporting certainly implied that the Max, or whatever you want to call it, the big version, which just was going to have, you know, in my mind, I read that as IPC improvements. Like it was going to be a generational improvement as well as potentially bigger, and we just haven't seen that quite yet. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that Apple's a little bit more. I think that my expectations now are a little bit more down to earth and in line with what I can expect from other processor manufacturers. Okay. You know, there are going to be architectural improvements, but we have, you know, the core tweaks that we can make as well, and that might be the easy way to go forward. So
here I have a long-term question though, because again, I think it's an awesome part, you know, no disrespecting it. It's, if you are a Mac person, buy this laptop. But I do wonder what happens now because Mark, specifically to you, I mean, you now have your Mac users, they cannot leave Mac Island, right?
No,
they can't just go, screw you, I'm going to boot over to Windows. Right? They're not going to do that anymore. That's over. What are they going to do as now? Are they still going to be, is Apple still going to have the incentive to just bust their ass to compete with Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA now? Or do they like, you know what, because really, it's always about beating Samsung, right?
Right.
That's always, because it's all about iPhone. It's about Samsung, and the Mac is very much tied to the future of the iPhone. So they get the magic of the amazing innovations they do on the iPhone.
Oh, I certainly think that Apple certainly has to push the envelope and keep the pedal to the metal in terms of, you know, in terms of innovation, in terms of developing more new hardware. I mean, you look at what you pointed out with that, you know, the Mac Island, and yes, there is a moat or a channel which is, you know, not going
with alligators.
Yeah, with alligators, exactly.
With lasers on their head.
Yes, exactly. And those Mac users are going to be less inclined to swim that channel than they have been in the past. But, you know, the fact of the matter is that people, you know, designers will go back and forth, maybe not institutional ad agencies or so forth, but there will be at least independent developers, and those independent developers are going to have a little bit more of a neutral approach to it. And if I think that, you know, if they see that there is a compelling reason to go to a Windows platform or some sort of NVIDIA remote rendering platform or something of that sort, I mean, I think that certainly those people will jump ship. But yes, I mean, there's obviously one of the things that manufacturers of all stripes aspire to do is lock customers in with different methods. It's just that and so there are handcuffs on Apple users, just they aren't as, you know, they're not that solid, I guess, is what it is. So yes, I mean, I certainly think that if Intel or AMD. Or NVIDIA and ARM, for example, were managed to come up with a compelling reason to leave the Apple ecosystem that certainly people would. In my mind, what I am honestly looking forward to is getting that NVIDIA ARM deal done and seeing the fruits of that development. Because, yes, Apple has a license where they can go ahead and, it's different from Qualcomm, where they can go ahead and develop their own chips and not just tweak what the reference designs are. But I'm very interested to see what ARM and NVIDIA can put together. And in my mind, that the race isn't really fully run until we see that company enter the field.
Yeah, that really mixes things up. Because if NVIDIA pulls off the coup of the century in buying ARM, and that reshuffles the entire deck.
Yeah,
Apple's going to run for the. They're going to run for the exit. Everybody will run for the exit. I don't care what anybody says.
I can't remember the time frame is. I mean, it's going to be a long, involved process because that's a sea change in the way that things are done. Because we're talking about some real top end of. I mean, NVIDIA is obviously competing for the high end of the GPU market. ARM is now considered to be among the top processor vendors in the world. I mean, yes. I mean, that really to me is just the thing to watch out for.
I guess what I'm afraid of is that the Mac user, things look really wonderful now. In 36 months, I'm not convinced that it will look that way. In 6 years, I'm not convinced because Apple has no incentive to compete with Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA. Because what do they care? Like you buy Mac, what were you going to run Mac OS over there? No, you're not. So
I disagree.
We had this conversation a bit last week, so I'm not going to rehash my points, but I think Apple has always kept the pedal to the metal throughout the whole time. It's been making its own chips for the iPhone. And I think there is incentive to keep up with those guys because, like Mark was saying, if they let the foot off the pedal that much, you saw what happened with the Mac Pro. Adam himself switched from Apple to Windows because Apple jumped the ball there. Like, creators, yes, if you're locked into Mac Island, like you are just kind of locked there for a bit, but there reaches a point when you're doing this for money, this is your job, like you need hardware that can keep up. And I think Apple understands that and is not going to let the foot off the gas.
Yeah.
I guess what I would point to is maybe 100 times where they have let their foot off the gas. They're literally, I mean, they are comparing the new MacBook Pro 16 M1 Max against whatever MacBook Pro 16 with a 9th gen CPU in it, right? And a Radeon RX 5500.
Yeah.
Apple is so lazy. Like, they wouldn't even bother to do anything. 10th gen could have just been like 10 minutes of work, right? And like, well, that takes a lot of work. But you know what? Let me tell you, Dell, Lenovo, and HP, every quarter they will crank out 15 new designs, refresh them with the latest stuff from NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel.
Well,
Apple can't do that to one thing. To one thing. And do you think that pattern is really going to change down the road? Or just going to same old thing? It's just going to be like, yeah, we got you now. See you in 36 months. But I need something newer and faster.
Well, not to mention, I mean, somebody in my department too would be looking at the tower stuff. That's still the big question mark for me because the laptop's great, awesome, cool, especially if you're in it. But the Mac Pro, what they do with the Mac Pro, like what are they going to do? Just continue to scale those same cores and do like 128 cores or something in the tower? I mean, who knows?
I don't know enough about the M1 Max, but I mean, you just look at the platform that Alder Lake is offering. I mean, there's the I/O capabilities are really impressive. So I mean, that's the kind of thing that attracts video editors and so forth. Is you need not only to have the processing power to make your tweaks, but you also have to import and export it quickly as well. And part of that is is Thunderbolt. Part of that's the memory and the
PCIe 5.
PCIe 5, exactly. Thank you. Right. So
DDR5. I mean, there's things that. Yeah. No. I mean, I would expect the desktop Mac to be a monster. I guess my only problem is I'm afraid that they're going to drop a monster Mac Pro and you won't see another new one for 6 years, which Apple has literally done.
It's also interesting too because I look at the Thunderbolt docks, and the Thunderbolt docks right now have traditionally been for Macs, and I'm seeing like a whole bunch of negative reviews on the Thunderbolt docks that I'm looking at because of the interaction with M1 Max. I mean, they just don't allow for the multiple monitors that the Windows PCs do. And people in the Mac world in the space are just like, hey, these suck. Well, those don't suck. It's the fact that your platform isn't quite supporting it. So I mean,
yeah, that was a little weird how they did Thunderbolt on that.
Right. So I mean, there's that as well.
Do you want to get to some questions before we get out of here?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. If you have questions, get them in on the chat right now, just at PC World, so that I can see them. If not, if you're listening or watching this afterward, get over on our Discord. We have a channel called the Full Nerd Questions. You can put them in there, and we will hopefully get to them on the show. The first one is going backwards a little bit from friend of the show, Pedro Acura. Said, do you guys know if the motherboards will support both DDR4 and 5, but only use one or the other, or will a specific motherboard be tied to one or the other?
It is, as Ian said, no combo boards. You either pick your DDR4 to reuse your existing modules, or you jump in with 2 feet with DDR5, I believe.
Yeah, the notches are different, so, I mean, can't really work around that.
Yeah, and speaking of notches, holy smokes.
Yeah, that was the next question I was going to ask from
The
Boz.
notch on that MacBook is like ridiculous.
Oh, the notch. Oh no, I'm referring to the DDR5 slots having the notch even closer to the middle than it was before.
I really need to find out why.
Yeah, well, and Boz is asking why did every Alder Lake unboxing video that just lifted yesterday point out that you can't put DDR4 DIMMs in a DDR5 slot, or vice versa? Hasn't that always been the case?
It has been, but most people don't realize that you can't do that. So they will buy the wrong memory, or they will just, if I push it harder, it will go in. So that's probably, I'm going to guess, the reason people say that. And that's why we're saying it, because there really are a lot of people who don't understand that you should not push on it harder to make it fit.
Not everybody is nerds. A lot of people are just, hey, I want to build a computer, so I'm going to buy some memory. They say buy some memory.
Yeah.
Bought some memory. Hey, why isn't this working? It's worth saying out loud, especially because memory generations, it's been 5 years or whatever since DDR4 came out. So it's been a long time.
Yeah, PC gaming and PC is huge. It's a big tent. A lot of people are just starting, so you got to say it louder.
Next question, moving over on to Discord. VC Jester, friend of the show, said, Pat Gelsinger recently tweeted about the importance of an open ecosystem. Does this mean Intel will be tearing up their patents on things like x86 and Thunderbolt?
I think Ian actually asked that question of Pat, and he basically the answer is no.
Yeah, that specifically no. x86. Yeah. Let me think. No. Yeah, that's a definite no. I don't. Yeah. What was the reference to being more open though? I don't.
Well, this is a little bit more on the enterprise side of things. To be honest with you, I was, I'll be honest, I was distracted by a couple of things in my personal life during that portion of the discussion yesterday, of the past couple of days. But essentially, what Intel has been trying to promote is a little bit more openness with their customers in terms of how they communicate, and also a little bit more, I think, in favor of more open standards, especially on the enterprise side of things. So, the fact that, Intel had planned to use x86 cores in its foundry business, of course, opened up a whole, basket of questions about, what was going to be in play and so forth. And I think that, Intel's not going to go ahead and give away the keys of the kingdom, but they may go ahead and allow greater access to their IP if it benefits them, both from a strategic as well as a financial standpoint. So that's the way. That's what I would say it.
Like XESS is going to be open after it comes out. They said they're going to open it up, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Some of these standards, they don't have any. They don't really have. Well, I don't want to open the Thunderbolt AMD platform, Intel platform thing. So yes, you can go down that road, I suppose.
Thunderbolt's, Thunderbolt 4 is essentially USB. Right. Or Thunderbolt 3 is, same thing. It's basically USB 4 now, right?
So. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a good question. But yes, I don't really think that things are going to change too dramatically.
No.
Well, we got a $5 super chat I totally forgot to get to from number one full nerd fan. Man, what a fan. Keeps giving the super chats. VC Jester, thank you so much. Said, if Gordon is trying to bring 19 by 10 back, written out, this is my own saying. Gordon, he wrote this out as 19x10. Saying he has to quit calling programs apps. Rule 476 in the Gen X handbook. So.
We used to call them programs. Now we just call them apps. I don't know why.
I guess everything has to be like, it annoys me when people say doc. You mean the documentary? Yeah.
you mean like doc,
you know,
doc
like it's just,
files?
I'm doing a doc. What are you working on Microsoft Word doc? No, I'm shooting a doc. You know, like, no, I don't know what you mean. No. Yeah. No, you're right. Applications.
I'm a weirdo who hates the word apps for desktop programs. I never edit it out because it's not wrong, but whenever I do it, I always say programs or software. I don't know why. To me, apps are on phones, and it's just because I'm an old man. But
I guess it's fine. What about application? If you're not in the brevity thing, just application. Yeah, you have to have application support, right?
Sure. Yeah, that works. But apps, I don't.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes me think of I had a lot of friends in high school that used to call movies shows. Like, oh, I'm going to go see that new show, and I'm like, wait, what show? Are you talking about Broadway show? Are you talking about TV show?
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
Movies versus
it's
TV
like
shows.
movies was they just called them shows. Hey, did you see that new show? It was,
That's wrong.
Yeah, it is
I mean,
wrong.
you can say I'm going to the cinema if you're like a film school dropout. But
Well, there's still parts of the country that call Coke, generically for Pepsi or 7-Up or whatever it might be. So
that's wrong.
It is
soda,
wrong. Yeah.
pop.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. My honest opinion and reviews. Well, it sounds like a channel to me. How do you think AMD's upcoming 3D V-Cache CPUs will compare to Alder Lake? Also, do you expect Ryzen 5000 to drop in price after launch?
I would. They said 15% better gaming. I would expect that to be roughly. I would expect that to be the high watermark. Would be my personal expectation because that's the way benchmarks normally work. I think it'll be faster. I think there will be other applications that will also benefit from the increased, cache, but it'll be faster. I don't know if it'll necessarily blow Outer Lake out of the water. We don't know what Outer Lake is actually capable of yet, so we'll have to see.
Yep.
Nice. Okay. Well, what about price? Do you think there's a precedent to drop price for parts that are already out?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how well received it is by reviewers, and then how if the performance falls where it is, it does feel like they preemptively underpriced AMD because they would expect to put a pinch on AMD. Or
Right.
if you were Intel and you had a part that was as good as their top end part, and you introduce it at the price of their top end part, they would probably react with a price cut, right, to hurt you. So you don't have to chase them with another price cut.
Yep.
Depending on where it falls.
Yeah, but AMD also, like Intel, sort of intimated that they're going to be shooting for the high-end stuff. So I don't know. Just does seem to feel like we're going to see more emphasis on premium stuff for this holiday, and maybe just going into the first quarter than we have in the past.
It is good though, because I mean that was one of the mistakes AMD had made in the past. They said we're going to make ARM server parts. We've been beat. We're gonna do these things. We don't care about that stuff. And
right.
That was a long time wandering in the woods.
It was
right.
It was.
So
yep.
The focus on high end is, I think, really what saved AMD. So why change
their
that?
financials are just impressive right now. I am just they are full steam ahead.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't paid attention
Profits,
to numbers, so.
cash available cash. I know people don't care about that, but it was like down in the, I don't know, mid hundreds of millions like 5 years ago, and now it's just like,
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, they have.
There was
no
a
matter
real
what.
question before Ryzen. It's like, is AMD going to survive?
Yeah, exactly.
They're looking good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then with the consoles plus the GPU market not going to go away. I mean, they have all the pieces. No matter what, this is not AMD. I don't know how it's going to end up, but AMD will still be here.
Yeah,
I can
absolutely.
say confidently.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas 10 years ago, it didn't feel like that.
Yep.
Speaking of, since he's actually been in the chat, Tech Potato, Ian Cuttress actually had a really, really awesome interview with Mike Clark from AMD, who is like the Zen chief architect. I recommend going and check it out. It's like 50 minutes or something like that. It's really in depth. It's worth the watch.
Nice. We got a couple Windows 11 questions for good thing Mark's here to help us with those. Friend of the show, John Dokic, is asking, is Skylake X the oldest officially supported CPU architecture for Windows 11 right now? I know Kaby Lake didn't make the cut. Zen 1. Any updates on official?
I would love to answer this question. I would not feel confident without actually just checking my notes. I can't say off the top of my head what the oldest processor is, and I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I think technically it's a Surface CPU. That's
Might be.
78. So it was like an i7 7820 mobile part in a Surface. Remember the Surface?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful screen, right?
Right.
That's actually that's actually technically older than the Skylake X.
You're talking about the Surface Studio? Right.
Yeah, Surface Studio. I
Yeah.
think that's the officially
That might be
supported.
right. Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. A couple more here. No Cloud, from the show No Cloud over on Discord, asked, is Microsoft tone deaf with the Windows 11 hardware requirements given this PC World headline? Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA agree the chip shortage isn't ending anytime soon.
Let me just see how I'd answer that. I don't. I mean, we've gone over this before. I mean, Microsoft's premise in designing the hardware requirements for Windows 11 has simply been that they want a more secure platform. And I don't really think that necessarily has too much to do with the chip shortages now. I mean, if you're phrasing your question from the standpoint of, hey, yes, it's cutting off multiple generations of existing PCs that might want to upgrade and therefore have to buy new hardware to replace it, yes, that makes sense. My argument in response would be that, honestly, Windows 10 is, like, as my review basically just goes into, I think that for right now, Windows 10 is sufficient. I mean, there's not a hugely compelling reason to update to Windows 11 right now. And if you accept that particular argument, then you can say, hey, look, well, okay, then I've got until 2025 to upgrade to Windows 11, and I've got all of that time to either save up or wait for the supply chain situation to alleviate. I mean, the real concern right now, from a historical perspective, has always been that the supply chain whipsaws back and forth. We go from a period of shortage to a period of oversupply to a period of shortage and vice versa. Basically, people, you would imagine that alleviates somewhat over time because people have become more increasingly focused upon the supply chain. But of course, COVID threw a wrinkle into that. So I would think that what we're hearing right now is that supply chain shortages will sort of end heading into 2022, and sort of throughout the year will become supplies will increase. And I think that, honestly, with that trend in mind, set against the lack of a compelling reason to upgrade to Windows 11 right now, the problem will just essentially go away. So stick to Windows 10. Count your pennies, put them in a piggy bank, wait for supply chain to alleviate, and get into late 2022, and you'll just upgrade then. And then, again, we'll see things like, more of these features that Microsoft promised with Windows 11 come to fruition and actually move out of the Insider program into the Stable program. And I think that, everything will just kind of work itself out. That's my take right now.
I agree 100% with everything you just said. I just also want to say that, yes, I agree with the person who asked it. It is kind of a rough look considering what's going on in the world right now. Mm-hmm. But operating systems aren't made overnight. The wheels have been moving on this for years at this point. And honestly, if you're going to introduce a new operating system where you're like, all right, we're going to have this hardware cut off. This has never happened to this degree before, but we're doing it for security reasons. Now is the best time to do it because Windows 10 rocks, and you do have 4 or 5 years to make on your
talked about
upgrade.
this before, but what Microsoft should have done is signal it better. I mean, they should have just 2 years ago, they should have just started talking about it. And they didn't really do a great job there.
Last Microsoft related question comes in from Pack NW over on Discord. That AMD put out the patch for preferred core. Sorry, it's worded. Does that indicate that AMD did not provide to Microsoft the details of AMD's special sauce? Is that what the problem was with the whole preferred core with Windows 11 thing?
I'm
do you think they didn't chat about this
Oh,
beforehand?
That would not be my guess. I mean, I would think this is, I would think this would be an honest bug as opposed to a
Yeah.
lack of communication.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it's just something that worked into
Right.
the bug. I don't imagine AMD would hide things from Microsoft.
Absolutely.
And no matter whose fault it is, I will say the answer will be in the way it works on PC. Very similar to how it works in Apple. The fault lies not with Microsoft.
No,
So
yeah.
as someone, I will apologize for my face getting in the way of your birdshot in this case. Would be the best example. And that's typically what goes on. And no, I don't think I don't know who was wrong, but I will tell you it wasn't Microsoft.
Right. I mean, we've just seen such a close working relationship with Microsoft and AMD with like the Surface Edition processors and so forth. I mean, it's just
The Xbox.
yeah, exactly. Xbox. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
those guys are tight. So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's crazy, right? Because they built a Surface laptop using a Ryzen part, which was not as good as clearly Ryzen 4000 or 5000, but there is no grand conspiracy.
Yeah.
here.
No, that's right. Mhm.
It's just probably I mean, again, you're developing a new operating system virtually for
Yeah.
everybody. So
Yeah. I don't see any great conspiracy theory.
A couple more questions and we can get out of here. If you have a burning question, get it in now. Desu VR asks, why aren't all the USB ports on our PCs USB-C now? What's holding it back?
what?
Oh, legacy.
People like you know what? If you took away it, and it is really a pain because when you get a laptop without one Type A, you will immediately understand why that sucks.
I'm
Because-
guessing it's,
Yep.
yeah, I don't know how many wired laptops wired keyboards we see or wired mice that we see with USB-C at this point. I mean, there's just decades of legacy USB keyboards with Type A ports in them, and I'm assuming that's why they're there. I mean, that's what I would
Yeah,
do there. A
I
mouse,
mean-
you don't need a keyboard if you have a laptop, but wired mouse, sure, absolutely.
You know what's interesting though is it does feel like we're getting to the time where like I really could use 3 Type C's and 1 Type A.
Yeah, I know.
It's that mix. Do you really need 7 Type A's?
Right. Yeah.
Maybe we can get more Type C's on there. On a desktop, I don't think it's there. On a laptop, maybe.
Yeah.
It's actually probably a better question on a laptop, but on a desktop, it is weird to see a motherboard with 8 USB ports on the I/O shield. Sometimes it's like, what the hell are people using all this for? But
I use a lot of USB.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
want-
I think I have 7 things hooked up right now or something like that.
use a lot.
But but even on a desktop, we're at the point where like, God, I wish what the hell, this slow ass USB 3 port on here? Why don't they put a Type C 10 gig, right? Or a 20 gig or Thunderbolt, right? Or
Yeah.
USB 4.
It's just all for those USB keys.
You do. I think I would. I don't think we need 10 Type A's anymore. So I think we can go to 4.
I do.
Maybe 6. 6.
8. I
6
think is my cutoff.
4 C's. No.
No, 1C is fine for me. I need as many Type A as I can at this point.
But they're slow. They are slow.
but it doesn't matter. Most of the stuff that I use, I like, at least the motherboards I use have the delineation of like, hey, there's the 2, there's the 3, 3.1, 3.2, USB-C.
That's the worst, Adam.
Well, no, I actually like it because then I'm like, okay, I know what's going to go here. I know what's going to go here. I already have it mapped out in my head.
Yeah, I know what it's like. It's like this. I think that's the type. And then later on, like, why are my files copying at 40 megs a second? And then
Yeah,
you're
I
like,
use it for more than just
Let
copying.
me get back, pull. It's just terrible. It's just
But you have the physical space on a desktop to put all those ports in. With a laptop, you don't. That's
Yeah,
why they put
yeah.
the Thunderbolt, essentially. Because Thunderbolt just, beep, you have your little Thunderbolt dock, and then you have all your ports go off of that.
I just hate crawling behind my stupid machine for that.
Agreed. Yep.
Okay. So crap. There was one more question. Reps Up 100 asked, "What did all of you think about the Alder Lake plus Intel Alchemist Deep Link demo with Handbrake?" I'm sorry.
You're looking at me because I'm the GPU guy, but I actually have not had a
Oh.
chance to look at it yet.
It's basically the same thing as they did with the XC Max demo, where they were basically, because you have multiple encoder engines now. Why don't we have some software that can take advantage of it?
Right.
So it was cool, and it's very similar to what you're seeing on the Apple side, because again, it's about
That's right.
it's just like Clippers owner Steve Ballmer saying, developers, because you get them to support all those multiple encode engines. It's cool. You build it, and if you build it, they don't always come. So hopefully we will see people take advantage of it. So I think it's cool stuff.
Yeah.
The Deep Link though, I tested it, the Intel Z Max in the Acer Swift 3X laptop. And for applications that actually use it, it's really awesome. And that's just with the 2 integrated notebook GPUs. Like once you put in a desktop class processor in there, like it's going to be super cool. I love seeing, vendors putting special sauce into stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, we've
Like,
got all
it's
the
really-
cores and everything. Take advantage of it, right?
Yeah, it's like truly beneficial. Like even in the laptop form that I tested it in, like it made a tangible difference to how fast you went through things. Adding desktop class power to it, great.
Nice. Last question. Take this however you will. Liquid R over on Discord, friend of the show, asked, true or false, chicken burgers?
As in, are they real?
You mean the chicken burger war?
Are they good? I don't know.
Oh.
It's your interpretation of the true or false
So I've
question.
had some good chicken burgers, and I've had some really bad ones.
Is this the Popeyes question?
I think it's the Chick-fil-A. You know how like it's now everybody, they sort of like had that people like getting into fistfights over getting
No, that was Popeyes.
Yeah, that was
What's that?
Popeyes.
That was
Yeah.
Popeyes. It wasn't Chick-fil-A.
See?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've had chicken sandwiches and I've had burgers and I've had turkey burgers, but I don't know if I've ever had a chicken burger because usually I have a chicken sandwich. To me, a chicken
Yeah.
burger would need to be ground chicken and made into a
Exactly.
burger, and
That's
that just sounds disgusting as
Yeah,
heck.
I agree.
No, it's just basically a deep fried chicken breast.
Yeah, for the deep fried
Spicy.
That's a
chicken
chicken sandwich. That's a chicken sandwich,
chicken
not a chicken
sandwich.
No,
burger.
because-
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a burger.
It's a
Right.
burger because it's round. It may have sesame seed buns on top.
not
Or
always-
sesame
it's not
seeds
always
on top.
round.
It's round.
No, it's a chicken sandwich.
yeah, I'd call
What?
it.
No, that is
Yeah.
not a sandwich.
Yeah, I'd call
A
it.
burger
I
is
love
ground
me some chicken sandwiches, but
Yeah, they're good.
Also-
pass on the chicken burger.
It's funny because some places like Burger King, you can actually get a chicken sandwich, like a normal one with like a weird patty, and then they've got the deep fried one, which is a whole separate one. So there's actually
Really?
2 different kinds of chicken
Yeah,
sandwiches.
that's the one you
Yeah.
want. Because like actually the chicken burger with like just the like fried, basic. No, that.
Yeah,
I'm talking
yeah.
about
chicken sandwich.
deep fried.
Chicken sandwich. They're not chicken burgers. Chicken burgers would have to be ground. Oh,
keep meaning to
this
go-
person was
because
setting
there's
this
a
up.
there's a whole chicken burger war these
Well,
days. I think.
No, I
Isn't
think
it?
it's
Chicken
over.
sandwich.
There was a war. Now
Sandwich,
it's over.
sandwich.
Is it over? But everybody has it now.
No, because
Yeah, well,
the McDonald's came out with theirs recently. That was a new one, and there was another new one. Was it?
Burger King introduced one called Chiking, which I just thought was genius.
Oh, I had one
Actually-
of those. So it was.
Oh, it depends on where you get it. I've had a really bad one of those that was like
Oh, of
kind of
course.
undercooked, and then I've had actually a pretty good one. A good one of the Burger King ones I rank as number 2. behind
Oh, really?
Popeyes.
Really?
Yeah. When it's good.
so-
When it's good.
The undercooked raises a good question. A burger, you get different levels, right? Like me personally, I like my burgers like rare. Would you eat your chicken burger rare, Gordon?
I mean,
No.
don't
No,
eat
'cause you-
anything
'cause
rare
you
from
fry.
from a drive-through.
Deep
yeah.
fried.
To
Deep
get them
fried, so it
fried
can't be
because
rare.
they're fried because they're chicken sandwiches, not chicken burgers.
No, it's a chicken burger. It's on a because literally it's like on the production run. They're making all these burgers. Like, hey, we got one of those Chickings. Okay, you take the chicken, you take the beef patty, you throw it in the garbage, and then you put it back into the food lineup, and then you take the deep fried thing, you put it on there. It's got the entire external shell and form factor of a burger, except it has a deep fried chicken patty on
Why
it.
don't we have a fast food sponsorship? Every time I'm on here, we end up talking about fast food.
Right. And it's lunchtime. I'm
And it's
hungry.
lunchtime.
I know. I need to reach out. So Kamikaze, I don't know if that's true. They're claiming that McDonald's calls them chicken burgers.
No.
Yeah, I don't think
it's
so.
a chicken sandwich.
Also,
Yeah.
Dominic says chicken sandwich is the chicken breast slices and the vegetable and mayo, where chicken burgers are the
Ground.
breaded,
breaded
No.
yeah,
fried.
bread and fried.
Those are good.
No.
That's a
I will
burger.
disagree to the death over this one. It may be a regional thing, but no.
They say in Germany that's what they call them.
Oh, well.
the
okay.
German McDonald's.
They got the metric system. They wouldn't. If you line them up on the table, like 5 different burgers, one of them had the fried chicken thing in it, you couldn't tell. If you had to run into the room and grab one in 1 second, and you couldn't, they look exactly the same, except it's got the fried chicken.
No,
It's a chicken
you
burger.
You can tell. Also, you know what? This might be a good showdown.
You could seriously do it.
Yeah. I think, you know what? Should we make this a showdown for the belt, Gordon? You do one of your polls and say, hey, the Popeye sandwich, is that a chicken burger or is that a chicken sandwich?
It's a chicken burger.
Put that out there. I'm willing to fight you for this belt, Gordon.
Oh, I never checked the last one. I was asking for people's opinions on best movie trilogy. I can't remember what even won.
Juan or one?
Yeah, I don't know what won.
Dominic says the UK McDonald's call them chicken burgers.
See?
Well, the UK is wrong. They drive on the wrong side of the road to
See?
begin with.
And somebody says also in the UK they call it the Royale with chicken.
No, that's
Lord of the Rings is one. So I basically did a poll. It was like
that's
best
easy.
movie. The greatest movie trilogy of all time is Lord of the Rings,
Yes.
The Godfather, Back to the Future, or Star Wars. Star Wars was surprisingly second place.
Well, no, surprisingly.
Yeah, I mean Lord of the Rings is a really good trilogy.
Godfather, I really thought would have been.
Really? No. Not over Lord of the Rings or Star
Well,
Wars.
if you but you just pretend the third one didn't exist, then it would win.
John Wick.
It's not a trilogy.
Oh.
Also, a $5 super chat from Lindsay said Team Chicken Sandwich. So
That's not a sandwich.
You chose right, Adam.
Yep. You know what? We should put it up for the belt. Let's have a.
It's fried.
showdown
They
here.
put it on the grill, I'm sure. They probably deep fry it and then they put it on the grill and then they fry it some more and they hit it with a blowtorch.
Okay.
just pull
You know
it
what?
out of
Actually,
the
yeah.
freezer and microwave
Sorry. When Corbin says in Germany they have chicken burgers, McChicken, and crispy chicken. So
That's
three
too
different
much.
kinds of ways
That's
to do
just
chicken.
too much granularity for me.
Okay. Then we need to get out of here because now I'm hungry.
Check back next week for your fix of PC Talk on the Full Nerd. For audio listeners, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or Stitcher. And if you're on one of those services, please leave a review. Every time you do, people understand a chicken deep fried in a burger bun with lettuce and tomato
The chicken gets its
is a burger. Send questions and comments to thefullnerd@pcworld.com.
Wrong.
Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Young with Brad Charkis.
Put the belt on.
Burgers use ground meat.
Put the belt on.
Wait. Are you going to say then if somebody is a vegetarian and there's no ground meat on there, that is literally they're not eating a burger? You're going to discount
Ground
those.
substance. If you look at the vegetarian burgers, they're ground as well.
Yeah, they actually are. Yeah,
Well,
they're ground up.
believe me,
It's true.
that chicken looks
Just keep
like
saying
it's
goodbye.
a piece of chicken. It's ground. It is ground up and reshaped with some sort of purple thing or pink sludge to make it look like a
I would be much more inclined to call a chicken nugget a chicken burger
I'm gonna
than a
after
chicken sandwich
this.
a chicken
I'm
burger.
going right now to
Bye,
get
internet.
a chicken
Bye,
burger.
internet.
Thanks for coming,
You got it.
Gordon Young with Brad Charkis,
Bye, internet.
Mark Hockman,
Thanks, guys.
and Patrick Murray, who doesn't know what a chicken burger is either.
I will
Gonna
put
turn it off.
the
Right.
belt on it that it's a chicken sandwich. Gordon, me, you in the ring or the
All
internet
right.
Twitter ring. Let's do it.
In the drive-through, I'm gonna say I would like a chicken burger. Do you think the person's gonna go, "Whoa, no, it's chicken sandwich"? Sir. I can't get it. We don't. What are you talking about?
They're gonna say we're gonna throw whatever we want at you. Also, real quick, Karthik gave us 100 rupees. Thank you so much. Said in India,
Thank you.
KFC, McDonald's, Burger King all call them the fried versions burgers as long as they were using buns.
That's a UK, Germany.
We are learning
and
something
India?
today, though. That's good.
I think the world has spoken.
The world is wrong. Put it out on Twitter. Put it on Twitter. You get the belt. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Bye.
All right.